what Swagger sees or what that means. It's fun.
So where the naming convention comes into play? So like, say that question again, because I'm just trying to find the real question.
When you
That sounded a lot worse than it was meant to be.
so when we're in Swagger, right?
Yep.
We're building the URL and we're just putting it in, right? It's localhost whatever /blog.
Yeah.
/API/blog. Or we're looking at Swagger. We have in this case it has values, but again it's going to have blog.
Yep.
Right. Where does that log come from?
It's like, where does this come from?
Yeah, where does values come from? Obviously, values is built in, but when is it the values?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it comes from the values controller, but which property within here is actually saying, hey, this is,
This line right here, line 9.
Okay, so controller, and is it?
That's square brackets with a controller in it.
Yep.
It says, hey, look at the current name of the current controller.
Okay, but it's values controller.
Yep. Yeah.
Is it just getting rid of values?
Yeah, so if I change this to unicorn
Okay, so that's where it's coming from.
and rebuild it. While it rebuilds.
As a side question while this is rebuilding, if you say replace in the route, instead of having the brackets controller and you just had like controller, what happens to it? Where is it looking to go?
So we'll do that next after we do this.
Okay.
If I hit reload a lot, it'll go faster. We're actually doing pretty good. Girlfriend is out of town this week, so they're feeling very lovey and lonely. Because she works from home, so they're used to having her at home all day.
My girlfriend is too.
Yeah. They're all like, love me all the time, right now, so hard. Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Gotta ask all the children.
Yes.
Pretty much like that right now.
Unicorn.
Okay, so it comes from.
It comes from the class name itself.
Gotcha. And it knows to get rid of controller.
Yes, and that's where the square brackets come into play. If we get rid of them, like Steven was suggesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we think is gonna happen?
It's going to be called controller.
Is it going to be like unicorn controller or something? Like it'll give you the full name?
So we have two options: unicorn controller, or it will be controller.
Controller.
It should. I know what I expect it to be.
What do you expect it to be?
I expect it to be the word controller.
Just controller?
Yeah.
Oh, I think unicorns.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's the URL. That
Yeah.
Part of there is being pulled from
Unicorn.
Yes. This is from the name of the class.
Okay.
This is the actual endpoint that the class has.
Okay.
So what we can do now is, as our project gets builder, we can actually swap out and actually pull away and abstract the URL from the actual controller. Huh? Uh-huh or uh-huh? Huh? Huh?
Yeah.
Mhm. So we have our unicorn controller. Put that back to controller. Close that. Our blog controller. We know that every controller inherits controller base, right? At our using here, we have the route that it exists at /API/controller. And what was the other one that goes here? It's an API controller. Now we actually start doing stuff. So of all these 5 endpoints, which one's a good starting point? Host?
Yeah, I think yeah.
Get?
Post creates some.
Post creates it. Get some? Okay.
Exactly.
I'm team post.
Post?
Yeah.
Post?
Team post.
Team post.
Post.
It's funny because there's no wrong answer. I will do the gets first, so I can validate that stuff's happening because I like having that working there.
But you get it validated on
So that's Postman or on on
Yeah.
the actual API.
But you need to make the post and the get first. Like those are the first 2 points. Whether you make the post first and then the gets, or you make the gets and then the post, it's up to you.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
You
matter.
make both.
He's telling us
Does it matter speed-wise?
Yeah.
It affects speed, right?
No,
Anyway.
it literally doesn't affect anything but your dev process.
Okay,
It affects what Marx thinks of you.
So because I'm outvoted, we're gonna do the post first.
Oh.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
What? King of
Post.
two posts.
I am. It's going to be a post, public. What are we going to return here? Well, an action results of a blog.
Oh.
Create entry. Have some red squiggles. This one, because our model is in a different namespace, we have to include the namespace. So add namespace using blog API.models. Call it create entry. Now there's going to be some ins and some outs here, right? So what is our in? Well, our in for our body is going to be this stuff, right?
Yes.
That stuff is an object, right? Our React app is going to be posting a JSON object. So what we want to do, we want to say, hey, you know what? We are going to accept a blog, and it's going to be in the body. There's the attributes cropping up again. Establish what?
From body, what is from body?
That's the new piece of information.
Right.
So what it's doing, it's saying, hey, on my request, whatever that is, look at the body of what's coming in. Inside of that body, there should be a JSON object. And it should have the fields that a blog has. So it should have a title, date created, content, author, image URL. It should have that stuff. And is looking for it inside the body.
And what does entry do?
Entry is where it's going to be stored, actually. That's the actual data itself. So let's return entry. Actually, first let's add it to our database, right? Because that's really what we want. Because we're going to add it to our database. And how do we add it to our database?
We need to define the database, or reference database.
Database,
Do the thing, say the thing.
do the thing,
RDB.
save the thing. Reference the database, var db, we'll call this context. Var context equals new database context. Bring in the using. What do we want to do? We want to save it, right?
Yes.
Context.blogs.add entry.
So entry is the actual JSON that's coming in.
Yes. So what ASP.NET is doing for you, it is saying, hey, we're getting JSON object coming in. I'm going to look at it, parse it out, and create a new blog, a new instance of a blog for you. So it's going to do that conversion for you. So here we just have to worry about C# classes, not so much like JSON objects or anything like that. It's just C# classes.
Can I see the class that you created?
Blog.
Okay, so this is when we establish it.
Yeah.
Columns.
Yep.
Table.
Mm-hmm.
So database context is class.
It is a class.
Okay. And within database context, we define what our database was.
Correct.
If we had multiple databases, we wouldn't have multiple databases now, right? We have multiple tables within the database. Okay. And logs is both a class here, but also a table within our database
Blogs is not a class, it's a property on a class.
property of the class.
Yep.
Okay. Which class is a property of again? The database?
Our database context.
Could you run the from body to me again, please?
Yeah, so yesterday we were passing stuff into it, right? Yesterday, we were passing it from the URL. We said, hey, we have a parameter that's coming to us from the URL. It kind of figured out where those properties were coming from. But here we're going, no, you know what? Our blog entry is being passed to us from the body of the request.
Okay.
So you know how in React we do like axios.post? The first parameter is a URL. The second parameter is a JSON object. That JSON object is inside the body.
Okay.
So it's going to take that thing that you pass it as the second parameter inside of Axios, and it's going to use that to try its best to populate this entry.
So, sorry.
So it's going to look for our properties there. If we pass it properties that don't exist, it's going to ignore them. If it doesn't find properties, then it's going to populate it with the default values. So if we don't pass it a content, it's going to be null because it's a string. If we don't pass it a snap, it's going to be 0 because the default value of an integer is 0.
So entry and context could be uniform.
Correct.
Okay, so there's nothing within C# or within these
Nope.
usings that requires it to be entry or context.
Correct. The very last thing that we have to do now is we need to return something. That's what our last red squiggle is. We've now done the thing, we've saved it to our database. So now we need to return something. I want to return entry. Why? Because as part of a RESTful practice, it's good practice to always return what was updated or return what was created. How does that look?
You don't need to pass anything through the HTTP post.
I don't.
Like, so what is the Swagger going to end up looking like? No, this is a post, so you're creating something.
Yeah. So let's look at it.
So you would presumably need an input to be able to create that.
That's what this from body's doing.
So will it auto give you like all of the sections?
Mm-hmm.
Because it knows what the properties of the blog.
Right. Because we said this thing takes a blog post. It knows what a blog is. It knows the blog has a title, content, author, and URL. It has all that stuff.
Okay.
Here's our one post. Here's what here's what it's expecting.
Defaults.
Yep. So if I try it out,
So this one's set up where you can edit it inside. Okay.
Yep.
I see.
so we don't need to pass it an ID. Title, my first blog. Content, a thing. Whee. I don't need to pass it date created. I don't want to pass it in 0. Anything like that. Whenever I try it out, execute, it did a thing. I got back a 200. And if I look, my ID is 1. And my date created is the current timestamp. That's about right. Nick.
This is probably going to be something that's handled later on, but how do we do error handling? So for our homework last night, we had to do the explosion and the mumbling.
Yep.
I tried to pass the explosion letters
Yep.
just to see what would happen by default with Swagger in this. And it ran, I got a 200, but it didn't do anything. How would we, obviously we would have some logic that checks that we're getting the input we expected, but how do we push back an error code or error message saying like, hey, this is wrong? Should we still do a 200 and then say it's wrong, or should we pass back a different status code?
So that depends on how you want to structure your API and what exactly the error is.
Okay.
So like if I pass this thing nothing, I have to define what nothing is. It'd be like, hey, you didn't pass me anything, so I'm going to error out. That's probably going to be some flavor of a 400 error. Something went bad for the user stuff. If your name was too long, or your author doesn't exist, or something like that, there might be a 500 error.
Okay.
Or if the database is down, that might be a 500 error.
How do we send that error back? How do we define what that error is and send it back?
So that comes down to we're no longer, because this endpoint is structured to return a blog, right?
Yes.
Right now. So that means that we need to change what our return type is. So it's no longer a blog, and I'm going to put a pin in that till later. Because that's a much deeper conversation that we're going to have next week.
Okay. Next week. That's fine.
Or maybe in like 20 minutes. We'll see what happens.
It's a big gap there. 20 minutes next week.
Yeah, right? This is great. I'm doing a thing, right? Awesome. Check. Done. Feels good to do, right? Yeah. Give me some snaps. That's right. Slam poetry. Coding style. Gonna add a commit here. Added the post for a. It is.
What?
I know.
That's wild.
Bonkers.
It does.
I thought it was too.
I have no idea what day it is anymore. Added the post
Same.
for a blog.
What is my life?
So now we are going to need to do a get, right?
Right.
A good one is to do a get all. Or a get one. It doesn't really matter. Let's do a get all first.
It all sounds fun.
It does.
You know,
So it's going to be a get, public, action results. What are we returning?
All.
All.
logs.
All blogs.
All blogs. Oh yeah. That's not going to work. Just so you're aware, that's not going to work. So what is all blogs? All blogs is a list of blogs, right?
Yes.
So it's going to be a enumerable. Enumerable.
And we can use a for a web
Oh, there's double alligators?
There are double alligators. I'm not ignoring that select question.
I know.
Yeah, double alligators, because an action result takes a type, and that type that the action result takes is a list of things. And that list of things in IEnumerable also takes a type. So yeah,
Fancy listed lists.
yes.
List section.
It's, yes. We're going to do a bonus lecture on generics at some point and kind of really wrap our head around that. But until then, we're returning a list of things. So how do we get a list of things? Well, reference the database, do the thing, do the thing. And since this is doing a select star, right? We actually have no real reason to save anything. We just need to now return the thing. So var context equals new database context. Var blogs equals context dot blogs. And do we need to do anything? Do we need to like sort them? I'm going to sort them.
Yeah.
Order by descending using system.link blog.date created. This is going to take those. This is doing our select star from blogs where, select star from blogs, order by descending date created.
So we don't need to do this.
Can you add some more context to your statement?
The order by descending, I think we were just talking about we don't need to actually order it.
So you don't need to.
It's about client experience.
It's about user experience at that point. Yeah. Like, in this case, who is your user? Your user isn't the user, everyday user. Your user is your front-end developer. Your user is, well,
But isn't it going to naturally be ordered by ID?
you would think that.
What, like you're not going to get a random list if you don't order it. And it's
You
gonna be
get
ordered by ID.
a list that you can't guarantee the order. think back to SQL, the very first day that we did it.
When you update, because when we were updating data, it would go to the bottom instead of staying in the spot. So if we order it by ID, the blobs will shift based off of updating and deleting.
Yeah.
But that's assuming that you're updating data. If you're only creating posts and deleting posts, but you're not updating previous posts, the list should always be the same.
Yeah, if you're not updating. But
there will be
As soon as we
updating the
update,
blobs.
Yeah, as soon as you update it, your entire order is jacked up.
yeah, you're not wrong in saying that if my system's like this will always be the same order. You're absolutely right with that.
Okay.
But the core assumption is that my system will always be like this doesn't
And
work.
then,
It breaks down
If you're
fast.
the developer, then you can force them to not be able to.
You're not wrong. Yeah, like yes. You could be that developer and go, you can't update. Sorry, can't do it. Just got to delete and recreate. Hands are tied.
forget the users.
Yeah, right?
Who wants money?
And then we want to return the blogs. We got an error. That's a scary error, right? Can someone read it for me?
Can I implicitly convert type system.link I ordered queryable blog API models blog to Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC action result system collections generic IE CS0029.NET SNG template peak problems no quick fixes available.
Yeah.
Jim read awful.
Good job.
So what does this mean? Thank you for the technical definition. What's the English translation of
We
this?
have a list, an order by queryable, that because we gave it the order from the order by descending, but what it was expecting was just an IE enumerable, which is unordered.
Yes. So we need to somehow enumerate our enumerable. Ooh. By calling .toList on it.
Fancy.
So remember what we mentioned yesterday about EF Core? It's lazy. Right? It's super lazy. It only evaluates whenever we tell it to or until it has to. That's awesome. But here we're saying, hey, we've queued up our query, but we haven't actually running it. .toList forces it to run.
How did ToList fix the type?
Because ToList converts it to a list. And a list is an IEnumerable. And actually,
The list I knew rule is the problem of type. And the problem I knew rule was not.
it was looking for an IEnumerable. Because we told it to look for an IEnumerable. So we had to convert it to a list. Another fix,
But
We
is
could-
an IE enumerable a fancy list?
it is a fancy list.
But it's not a list.
Right.
The other one is just telling to expect
Yeah.
a list that we're going to give.
Yeah. Say, hey, you know what? We're going to expect an I ordered queryable. Nope.
Cannot implicitly convert type system.
Going to keep it this for right now. So this is going to do it. So we head back to our Swagger after it compiles, which is just a good name.
Is Swagger a STG thing or is that like
No, that's an actual thing. Yeah, right. And it actually works for other languages too, not just C#.
Swag transcends all languages.
Damn right.
It does though, doesn't it?
It really does.
It really does.
Absolutely.
Except database, SQL.
What? SQL has some swag to
PHP has no swag?
It doesn't.
it. Happy place.
I'm not going to PHP. I hate hating on languages because it's not healthy and it's not good. It's not respectful. But PHP is just on a whole other level.
Disrespect.
It's disrespectful for existing.
Damn.
Oh, yeah.
it's
Find our happy place.
Get
He
all.
has one on the podium.
I do.
God, I forgot that was there.
Best thing I ever bought at Disney.
So far.
Yeah.
Cool, we have our get, right? How's that feeling? Our get all, right?
Yes.
Added get all blocks. Make our commit. Now let's work on getting one, because we need to. So our get one is also going to be a get, but this one's going to take a parameter inside of the URL. Because for our get, it's going to be API/blog/ID, right? Because this is a RESTful API, we're looking for that resource. We're looking for that resource of the blog entry that has the ID of 1. So, with that being said, I want to say, hey, you know what? This get is going to exist on my controller. And inside the URL, it's also going to have an ID. So whenever we pass the HTTP gets, the post, the delete, that attribute is string like that, it's going to take that string and append it to the route. So the route is going to be up here. So this is going to be at mydomain.com/API/blog, because of this, / whatever goes right here. Nick.
In theory, we could chain the URL selectors then. We could, after ID, close curly bracket, put a / and then some other. Obviously, within brackets, this is within brackets.
Yes.
How would we do, instead of having it be, this isn't the right term, it's / separated, how would we have it be, I'm trying to think of like another example we've used, but as a question mark and then URL parameters that aren't defined in the structure.
So URL parameters are something else.
Okay.
This is just for that URL. This is everything before the question mark.
Okay.
Everything after the question mark behaves slightly differently,
That's-
which we'll get to at some point. As we grow, I'll give you a hint. It's no longer from body.
I'm assuming it's from URL or from path.
From route.
Route from route.
Good guess.
From route. From query, that's what you're looking for. Anyways, but yeah,
It's from
Anyways, ID, here you go. Yeah, that from just says where it's looking for. So whether it's in the query, inside the query string, whether it's in the route, inside the URL, whether it's in the body, like the post would be, they actually define where we get that data from.
So it could have two different
first
first.
from body.
It could take some information from the body and some information from the.
Yeah, whenever we get to update, we will.
Where's from body?
Line 15.
Oh, like I'll take so like
And that's mean that it's looking at the body of the request. So in Axios,
yeah.
we think back, we do Axios.post, right?
Yeah.
First parameter is a URL string, right?
Oh, because it's the post. Oh, okay. I thought. Never mind. Okay, I get it.
Yep. Okay.
I thought I was like, yeah, I was confused.
Public action result. We are returning what? A blog. Get one blog. We have an int ID. Same thing. This is getting repetitive, right?
Yeah, I like it.
Good.
I hate it.
No, because there's actually a shortcut.
Yeah.
Probably.
Repetition helps me learn.
Yeah, this is really good. So reference to database, var context equals new database, context.
Since we're always referencing the same database, can we define context externally?
We can. Let's build up this endpoint and then let's explore that idea. Because that idea is very fun. Yeah, right?
Fun doesn't always mean the right way to do things I got in this class. class. When you say that sounds fun.
Yeah, that usually means rabbit hole.
This is a rabbit hole, but it's a really good rabbit
The
hole.
fun one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
You know, like the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. You know, it's a
That's
fun one.
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Not the white rabbit from the Matrix.
No.
No.
That's what I'm
That one was pretty good too, though.
The white rabbit from Monty Python and Holy Grail is
Yeah.
pretty good. That
Better
one.
That
reference.
actually feels like what this is about to become.
Yeah.
So
This is a silly place.
before we jump down the rabbit hole, how do I query for one blog article?
You select where the ID.
By the ID.
It's a where
Oh, do you want to use a where?
or
Wait.
No, it's we just did this. We just did this.
So it's not a select. We could use a where. I heard it. First or default. What does that do, Tristan?
Choose the first one or
So basically, if we don't give if it doesn't give a parameter, it just gives the first one back.
Oh.
It returns the first one that matches that condition.
Oh yeah, that's
So we're saying, hey, you know what? Find me the first one where the blog ID equals the ID that we pass it.
Oh, nice.
And then what's default?
What's the default value for a blog?
returns first one.
Zero. No.
Is
it's
it?
just a
Nothing.
A blog is a class, right?
Oh, yeah, nothing.
So nothing is NULL.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because if you just use first, it breaks it and it won't.
Right.
Return null for nothing.
Because if you don't have a first, then it's like, nope.
Correct.
If you have more default, it allows you to use no.
Yep.
So it won't break.
Yeah.
I see.
So I'm going to return blog because that's all I got to do. So if I come here, and I'm actually going to do this in Postman. Because Swagger's nice, but I like Postman a little bit better. What? Postman is a browser that's designed to interact with APIs.
Can you jump back to this one?
Great for
Oh
testing.
yeah.
APIs.
It's amazing for testing APIs.
Yeah.
I realize I use this.
Can we crash course on those things? Because I feel like there's so many things that it does that I just don't even know.
Yeah, sure. It's a Postman. It does things.
Supposed to post.
Yeah. So we're going to do a API/blog send. No, I don't want to do a post. I want to do a get. The blogs or blog?
Yeah, that's what I was just asking. Where's blogs coming from?
It's the
Am I running? Ah!
Is what it should be.
I got an error on line 46.
oh, dude. Okay.
Oh,
Oh yeah. It's just block. Wait. Can you scroll up? Or can you open up one of the other ones?
yeah, sure.
Are you calling from blogs or blog? Okay, it is blogs.
The issue is that I had blog here
Oh, they match.
and blog there.
It's confusing it.
So it's like, I don't know which blog you mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you show the class, please?
So what's the question, Albert?
Where's blogs?
Well, yeah.
Where's this coming from?
Oh, is that what you mean? Okay.
That's my database table.
Yeah. Can you show that on the program CS and the class?
You mean here?
Someone's run the book twice. I don't think anyone else is here.
Can you go get it? Actually, I'll go get it. It's someone probably for me.
It's telepathic.
Oh my god, the unicorn is so goddamn cute.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like a little pig you
truly is.
It's got rainbow eyes.
I wish I had rainbow eyes.
Wait, it does. They didn't notice that.
It does. It does what?
What did you say, Albert?
Oh my god.
I try not to lie.
That's there. I'm glad you liked it.
Oh, it's a yo-yo. I was over here thinking making magical powers. I didn't see the string.
Someone said yo-yo is magical powers.
Oh,
See? Magic.
I hate magic.
Nick, what's your favorite color?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Probably like green.
Green?
Oh, I grabbed my favorite color.
That's green your favorite color.
How's green not?
Yeah.
Just the color. What like though?
Yeah, why are you gatekeeping on green?
He keeps on everything.
What?
Yes.
That's not true.
Alright,
Yes.
so
Glazed donuts. You hate glazed donuts.
You hate glazed donuts.
so where were we? We were asking a question where blogs were coming from, right?
Yes.
Blogs comes from right here. That's our database table. Albert. You asked the question, not even know the answer. So you know what? We're done. We're back to this.
You just hammered it out.
But yeah, that's just our database table. It's a thing we define on our context to say, hey, what's going on here? Get one. Head to Postman, getting back into it. So Postman is a browser that's optimized for an API, right? It allows us to not only send GET requests, but we also send post, puts, deletes, and send everything that we can possibly want. So here, did that get one? We said that we're doing a GET request to some URL, right? And inside of that, we see down in the bottom half, we see the actual response. Body is a JSON object. We have a status code there. Status code 200, okay, that's awesome. We see what's coming back. So now I want to do a GET just for this one. So I'm going to do /ID of 1. We should get that back. What happens if I do /ID of 4? Yeah, we should get a null back. You notice our status code is slightly different. 204, no content. It means that, hey, the request worked. You're not getting anything back. How are we feeling with that so far?
The 204 or
In general,
yeah, okay.
Should we set something up so that the 204 says?
nothing found?
Yeah.
So now this goes into the question that Nick had earlier, error handling, right? We didn't find something. Now, what does that mean for us? How can we actually do this? Well, we're no longer returning a blog. We're actually just returning an action result. On a success, I want to return a 200 or an OK. That OK function comes to us from the base controller, the ASP.NET framework. Like, hey, you have a function called OK that will return an HTTP status code of 200 OK. Whatever we pass it is going to be inside the body. So this effectively works the exact same way. But now what we can do, we can add a little bit of logic here that says if blog equals null, if it's nothing, we can actually return a not found. Just like that.
Did it actually give us null back?
It does. Yeah. So now whenever I send this, instead of getting just a no content, I should get a more meaningful error message with an actual proper status code.
Can you go back to the code real quick?
Mhm.
It's just not found. Are there other, so this is the OK and the not found are coming from where again?
They're coming from controller base.
Controller base, okay, so that's the thing that is off that's.
Yep.
Get the template from, yada, yada, yada.
Yep, right here, right?
Yeah.
Inherit from controller
There
base.
we go. So if we use if we view that, we should be able to see those two things
Yes,
and the other options.
So like not found, no content. Okay, okay with some stuff. What else is there? There is a error, unauthorized. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Pretty much everything that works with a status code has its own function.
So how would we find a list of what those are? Does that exist or?
C# controller base return. Here is your properly more formatted list of everything that you have here.
Can you use Slack that link?
Sure.
Thank you.
There is a lot. This is one of those don't feel pressured to learn it all and memorize it all. Like most things, we're going to use like 20% of these and that's it. Like, okay, not found, unauthorized, bad content, error messages, stuff like that. Yep. So yeah, here we are. Bam. Ooh, did I close the wrong thing? Maybe. So here we go. So that's our get and our post. So I now want to talk. We're repeating stuff a lot, right?
Sure.
That's both a good and bad thing. Good thing is that now we kind of established a pattern, right? On every controller endpoint, we're going to reference the database. Reference the database, do our thing, and then return it out. Good news is that that's how most endpoints work. By most, I mean pretty much all of them. We're going to take whatever values we get, do some logic, and return stuff. But var context equals that, var context equals that. You know, the only thing that's really unique is everything past step one, right? Step one is repeated in every single one. So what we can do, remember log controller, even though it's a special kind of controller and I'm using it in a very special way, what this actually is, it's still just a class. Classes can have constructors. Classes can also have properties, right? Yes. So if I'm using something in all of the class's methods, I can make that a property. So private database context.
And why would you make that one private versus public?
I can make it public. Okay. Common practice says to make that private.
So why couldn't you just take the context variable and make it a global variable?
An actual global variable? Ask that question in 5 minutes. Yeah, right? So, with it being a property, we still need to initialize it to a new connection, right? So we can use our constructor, public blog controller, hey, this dot context equals new database context. And now everywhere where we have var context, we can actually get rid of that. And it'll still work.
Wait,
Hold on, you're going fast.
I know, right?
We just got rid of
I get 16 people talking one time. Tristan, what's up?
Wait, so you just delete where you reference the database?
Yep.
And why did you do that?
Because now, inside of my controller, I'm just referencing the database once.
So,
And I can reuse that now, because that's now a property of my controller.
And we need private database context
To do that.
to do that.
Yes.
So,
Because we said, hey, we're using context in 3 separate scopes, right? 3 separate methods.
yes. so far.
But actually, those are in one big scope, right? Via controller.
Yeah.
So since we're reusing it in 3 different places, let's abstract it and move it up a level so that all 3 can use the exact same one.
Is it kind of like each HTTP pose needs to be that have their own walls, and when it's in there,
Yep.
you can't see it. So it's kind of similar to not this type of state, but you know.
Yeah.
It's a higher enough level where all of them can see it at the same time.
Exactly. Instead of having 3 separate components with their own 3 separate states, we're actually elevating that state to one parent component.
What was in there before? Nothing?
Nothing we have. Tristan and then Nick.
Could you scroll up a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Okay, so I just want to make sure I have the language for this correct.
Yep.
Neither of these is a constructor.
This is a constructor right here.
So that's a constructor. It's defining for everything
Yes.
in block controller.
So what happens? What's happening under the hood? A request comes in. It comes into /API/blogs. So trying to get all of our blog articles. That request comes in. Our web server says, hey, we have a request to our blog controller. It's going to new up a new blog controller. Whenever we new up a new blog controller, this gets run, right?
And that
So-
sets it for it's like
That
request
request.
itself.
For that request.
Okay.
So for that request, now we have a context.
So that's how we would set this variable over everything.
Yes.
Like
That's over everything inside of the blog.
within this instance that it's run.
Yes.
Okay.
So just this page essentially.
Yeah, just this collection of endpoints.
Okay.
So yeah, we can now reuse that. So now what that means for us down inside of our posts, inside of our gets, inside of our puts, we don't have to worry about step 1. It's already handled, it's handled for us once. We just need to worry about step 2 and 3. Do the thing and return the thing. Or do the thing and save the thing. The actual logic for the endpoint. Actually worrying about, hey, does my content actually exist? Does my title exist? Does the blog that I'm getting actually exist? We just can worry about all the actual application stuff inside of the endpoints.
Is there any other logic that you suggest to have in these endpoints? Like, you know, how you have the if we had a post that was above the post number that we had, it's like if post is null or something, or if
Yeah, that comes down to whatever your domain logic is. Like if we say, hey, our content has to be 100 characters long.
Yeah.
Like then we throw in an if statement. Like if entry is less than 100 characters, then throw an error. Which we'll probably get to tomorrow.
So then going back to my original question from last night's homework, if we wanted to make sure that the inputs were only as characters or numbers,
Mm-hmm.
we would have done a check that basically goes through and makes sure it's, if
Yep.
there's a number within the mumbling one, throw an error.
Yep.
If there's a letter within the explosion one, throw an error.
Correct.
Okay.
So Adam brought up a question. Since we're elevating our context from the methods to the controller, why can't we just make it global? Every endpoint we make, every URL is probably going to talk to a database, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we just elevate that one more level? And we can. This is where something called dependency injection comes into play.
So what?
Dependency injection.
I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah. Sounds fancy, right?
It does.
Sounds complicated, right?
It does.
It's not.
Are you sure?
Yeah, my favorite quote about dependency injection is that people would be less afraid of it if we just called it passing stuff in.
Oh, that sounds much better.
Yeah, right?
It's much more manageable.
So let's go to a real world example, right? Hi, Corey.
Hi.
I'm going to task you with something.
Okay.
I want you to take these vegetables and cut them into slices. I want you to slice them for me. Right? How do you do that? You're probably going to go to a kitchen. Probably going to grab a knife, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Vegetable.
Yeah.
Cutting board.
Slice it, right? Yeah. Right? That task, slicing vegetables, has a dependency, right? You need a sharp blade, right?
Yeah.
Now, you said a knife. I told you. Could also use a mandolin to cut it, right? Cut it. You can use a sword to cut it. You can use a dagger to cut it. You can use a machete to cut it. You can use a sharpened shiv to cut it, you know? Like, it doesn't matter, as long as it has a sharp blade.
You can use your sharp blade.
Yeah, like, so that is the dependency. Now, I told Corey to do this, right? He handled that dependency himself, right? He's like, inside of me, I know I'm going to need a knife to cut this. But what if I said, hey, Corey, here's some veggies. Use this sword to cut it instead. Corey's still doing the task. He's still doing the thing. But now that dependency of needing something to cut it with, I'm now passing it to Corey. That's dependency.
Passing a sword into Corey.
Yeah, I'm saying, here, have a sword, Corey. Not the pointy end. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Corey. So yeah, that's dependency injection. Is that we have something that's doing something, and we're just passing them the tools to do it with. In this case, our controller has a dependency. Just like that knife, its dependency is talking to a database. Our controller needs a database to work, right? We're saying, hey, controller, save something. Save it, save it. And the controller's like, okay, I'll save it. I'll handle that myself. But what we can do is we can raise that dependency outside of it to more of a global scope and inject that database reference into the controller. So we do this two forms. So instead of doing something like this, we still keep our property, but now our constructor takes a database context.
Can you commit first before you do this?
Yeah.
So we can
What did I do? I added a get one
Eddie.
and and refactor to use C4. Yep. So yeah, I'm now going to add a parameter to my constructor. So whenever the web server actually makes that new controller is going, hey, I can do this thing, but I need a database context. So now instead of us newing up a new database context here, what we've done, we've now transferred that responsibility for making a new database connection from the controller to our web server. Elevated up one more level.
Right. So then, how to define?
So we have one more step before you ask that question, Nick. So now we need to actually have that defined somewhere, right? We need to actually say, hey, web server, make me a new DB context. So over here in the startup CS, something we really haven't talked about yet.
Is this best practices, what we're doing right
Yep, 100%. This is modern C# web development. I know, right? Inside of this, we have a method inside of our startup class called configure services. This is what happens whenever we create a new app. We are registering a whole bunch of services to our app. As you see, we already have a few here registered already. We're saying, hey, we're using cores. Hey, is it an MVC app? Or we're saying, hey, you know what? We're using Swagger. What we can do here, what we should do in order to enact this dependency injection, services.add, database services.add context, add DB context, database context. We're saying, hey, our website is using Entity Framework Core, and it has a DB context of type database context. The database context is something that we made, right? And what this is saying every time a new controller is spun up, reuse the same instance of that database connection. So now, with this, our servers are more lighter and efficient. We also don't have to worry about newing up a new instance of database connection. that's handled for us under the hood. Yeah, right?
Hold on. Go back. I'm trying to. I'll have to go find all this stuff.
Technology.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why this is awesome is that this is making our controllers a little lighter and a little dumber. Because now our controllers really don't care what's going on. It's getting that reference someplace else. It also has our web server be able to manage those resources for us instead of us having to worry about it. Because a big part of being a backend developer is worrying about those resources.
Can you scroll up on this just a little bit? I want to see what the thing was related to. Your services. I got it.
Yeah.
Then can you jump back over the other one?
Yep. And the only thing different I did was I added that parameter to the constructor. Dependency injection is the big leap for students. But if I come back here, this should still work, all fine and dandy. There we go. Blog 1. Ta-da. How are we feeling?
Can you go back to startup, please?
Yeah, sure. The only line we added was this line right here.
So when you are running this,
Yep.
I feel like I keep hitting the thing I'm doing my watch run.
Yep.
Somehow building it when you jump in the terminal each time that I'm missing.
No, and I'm dot at watch running it.
Okay, so you save, then you jump into the terminal to see that it's built as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yes, that's what you're
Yep, I'm just making sure that I don't have any build errors or weird things.
doing. I saw this me just jumping in too quickly, not like giving it time to build.
Yep.
Alright, I thought I was missing something. I'm not totally. You're not.
Ready to get your hands dirty?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's gonna be a fun one.
It's not good when he says that.
For your homework tonight, I want you to build me an API with a handful of endpoints to help manage an inventory for a store. So you're going to make your own store, doesn't matter what it sells, but an inventory API. Looks a lot like this, right? We're going to have create an item in my inventory, post it, update it, stuff like that. It's about 7 or so endpoints, I think, ish. Enough. Enough to keep you busy. Enough to really practice and see what goes on. See?
Oh yeah.
That sound good?
Yeah.
It sounded great.
We'll do it. Awesome. Homework will be out.
Thank you.
And
Can you
Mark,
upload this?
So,
I got like 5 questions at once. So, Nadia, we'll start here and we'll work our way through.
Mine's simple. I was just gonna ask if we're gonna upload this today.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Okay.
I just gotta memorize it.
Nick,
Would I be able to talk to you about the React Map Geo?
Yeah, today, yeah.
Because I got it to display.
Cool.
Don't know how it's actually working.